as a moment in life when you realize something isn't quite right. You wake up, go to work, earn your paycheck, pay your bills, and then repeat the exact same cycle tomorrow. At first, it feels normal. After all, it's what almost everyone does. But if you stop for just a moment and ask yourself one simple question, if I stopped working today, how long could my money continue working for me? The answer reveals far more than your bank balance. It reveals your level of financial freedom. Most people believe wealth comes from working harder, working longer hours, taking on another job, or hoping for a bigger salary. Yet history tells a different story. The people who achieve lasting wealth rarely become free because they worked the hardest. They become free because they eventually stop relying only on their own labor. Instead, they build assets. Assets that continue producing income long after the original work has been completed. Assets that grow while they sleep. Assets that quietly create opportunities year after year. As Warren Buffett famously said, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. Those words are not simply financial advice. They describe one of the most important principles of modern wealth creation. This audiobook is about learning that principle. Not through unrealistic promises, not through overnight success, and certainly not through gambling on the next trend. Instead, you'll discover timeless ideas that have helped ordinary people build extraordinary financial security. You'll learn why assets matter more than paychecks, why systems outperform effort, why ownership creates freedom, and why almost anyone, regardless of where they start, can begin building income streams that continue paying for years into the future. Every chapter will help you shift from thinking like someone who earns money to someone who creates wealth. Because true financial freedom doesn't begin when you earn more. It begins when what you have built starts working on your behalf. So, take a deep breath, set aside the financial myths you've been taught, and prepare to see money from an entirely different perspective. Your journey toward building assets that can pay you for a lifetime starts now. Memsite, Chapter 1, Stop Trading Time for Money. Start building systems that work without you. Imagine waking up tomorrow, checking your phone, and seeing that you've earned money before you've even stepped out of bed. No overtime, no clock to punch, no boss waiting for you, just income, quietly arriving because of something you built weeks, months, or even years ago. For many people, that sounds impossible. Not because it can't happen, but because they've never been taught to think that way. From childhood, we're encouraged to follow a familiar path. Study hard, get a good job, work diligently, earn a salary, repeat for 40 years. There's nothing wrong with honest work, but there is something dangerous about believing that your time is the only thing you can sell. Because time has limits. Every person receives the same 24 hours each day. Once those hours are spent, they're gone forever. You can always earn more money. You can never earn more time. That is why the most financially successful people value time far more than income. They understand that the ultimate goal is not simply to earn more. It's to stop depending entirely on their own labor. If your income disappears the moment you stop working, then your paycheck isn't providing freedom. It's providing dependency. Your job may pay your bills, but it also owns your schedule, your vacations, your weekends, even your future. Many people spend decades climbing the career ladder, only to realize they can never step away from it. The ladder becomes a treadmill. No matter how hard they run, they remain in the same place. This is where wealthy people begin thinking differently. Instead of asking, how can I earn more money? They ask, how can I build something that continues producing value without requiring my constant presence? That single question changes everything. Because wealth isn't built by working endlessly. It's built by creating systems that continue working after the initial effort has already been made. Think about an author. Writing a book may take months, but once it's published, that same book can continue generating income for years. The work happens once. The rewards arrive repeatedly. Or consider someone who creates an online course. Recording the lessons requires time and dedication, but afterward, thousands of students can learn from it simultaneously. The creator doesn't need to teach each lesson individually again. The system continues doing the work. This is the mindset shift that separates labor from leverage. Hard work will always have value, but hard work combined with ownership becomes something far more powerful. The world rewards people who create value that can be multiplied. A builder who designs a useful software application, an investor who owns productive assets, or an entrepreneur who develops efficient systems, all benefit from leverage. Their effort reaches far beyond the hours they personally invest. That doesn't mean success comes easily. Building assets often demands patience. In the beginning, you may work harder than ever. You'll spend evenings learning new skills, weekends improving your ideas, late nights refining products or building your business. At first, it can feel unfair. You work, yet the financial rewards appear small. Many people quit during this stage, not because the system is broken, but because they expect immediate results from something designed to compound over time. Builders understand that today's effort is creating tomorrow's freedom. They willingly accept short-term discomfort because they see the long-term outcome. Another important principle is leverage. Leverage simply means increasing your results without increasing your effort in the same proportion. Technology makes this easier than at any other time in history. A laptop, an internet connection, and valuable knowledge can reach millions of people around the world. One video, one digital product, one useful idea. These can continue creating opportunities long after they've been published. Technology allows your work to travel where you cannot. It allows your knowledge to scale beyond your own physical limitations. And that's why modern wealth is increasingly built through ownership rather than labor alone. Of course, digital assets aren't the only option. Some people build rental properties. Others invest in dividend-paying companies. Some create intellectual property. Others build businesses that eventually operate without requiring them every day. The specific asset matters less than the principle behind it. Build something that continues producing value, whether you're actively working or taking time to enjoy your life. As those assets grow, something remarkable begins to happen. Money slowly becomes less dependent on your daily presence. Instead of constantly asking, how many hours must I work? You begin asking, how can I improve the systems I've already built? That shift transforms your relationship with work itself. You no longer see yourself only as an employee. You begin seeing yourself as a creator, a builder, an owner, someone whose ideas can continue generating value long after today's work is complete. Eventually, your time becomes available for the things that truly matter: family, health, learning, creativity, purpose. Because the greatest reward of building assets isn't simply earning more money. It's reclaiming ownership of your own life. That's the destination every wealth builder is truly pursuing. Not luxury, not status, freedom. And every lasting financial journey begins with one simple decision: to stop selling every hour and start building something that can keep working, even when you don't. Chapter 2. Master the difference between assets and liabilities. Imagine receiving your monthly paycheck. For a brief moment, you feel financially secure. Then the bills begin arriving: the mortgage, the car payment, insurance, subscriptions, credit card balances, utilities, groceries. Before long, the money that once felt abundant has quietly disappeared. Another month has passed, yet your financial position hasn't truly changed. This is the cycle that traps millions of people. Not because they don't earn enough, but because they never learn one of the most important lessons in personal finance: the difference between an asset and a liability. At first glance, the distinction seems simple, yet it changes the way you see every financial decision for the rest of your life. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability continuously takes money out. That's it. Simple, clear, powerful. Yet despite its simplicity, most people spend decades confusing the two. Modern society encourages this confusion. We're surrounded by advertisements telling us that success looks a certain way: a luxury car, a larger house, designer clothing, the newest technology. The message is subtle but constant. If you own these things, people will believe you've made it. But appearances rarely tell the whole story. A beautiful home purchased far beyond your means may impress your neighbors, while quietly draining your financial future every single month. An expensive vehicle bought entirely on credit may symbolize status, while steadily reducing your ability to invest. Luxury without ownership of income-producing assets is often nothing more than expensive dependence. This is why wealthy individuals evaluate purchases differently. Before spending money, they ask a question that most people never consider. Will this decision increase my future cash flow or reduce it? That one question creates completely different financial outcomes. A rental property that generates consistent monthly income? That's an asset. A dividend-paying investment that deposits money into your account every quarter? Also an asset. A business that earns revenue while you're away? An asset. A digital product that continues selling online long after it was created? Another asset. Each one quietly works on your behalf. Each one strengthens your financial foundation. Now compare that with purchases that require constant payments, constant maintenance, or constant upgrades without producing any meaningful return. Those expenses may provide comfort, they may provide convenience, but financially, they move money away from you instead of toward you. This realization often surprises people, because something isn't automatically an asset simply because it has value. Its real value depends on what it does for your financial life. Does it generate income? Does it appreciate over time? Does it protect or increase your wealth? Or does it simply consume your future earnings? Once you begin thinking this way, every purchase becomes easier to evaluate. Financial literacy begins replacing emotional spending. Another powerful habit is learning to follow your cash flow. Money always tells a story. Every dollar has a destination. Some dollars quietly disappear forever. Others return, bringing even more money back with them. Think of every dollar as a tiny employee. You can send it out to work, or you can spend it on something that immediately retires it forever. The wealthy understand this better than almost anyone. Instead of asking, "How much can I buy?" they ask, "How many employees can I put to work?" That shift may seem small, but over years, it transforms everything. Many people assume building wealth requires earning an enormous income. In reality, many high-income earners remain financially stressed because their expenses grow just as quickly as their salaries. Every raise creates a larger lifestyle instead of a larger investment portfolio. This pattern is known as lifestyle inflation, and it's one of the quietest enemies of long-term wealth. Income rises, expenses rise even faster. Nothing changes. Meanwhile, someone earning less but consistently purchasing income-producing assets may quietly become financially independent years earlier. Because wealth is rarely determined by income alone. It's determined by what you keep, what you own, and what continues working for you. This is why financial awareness matters so much. Start paying attention to your spending. Review your bank statements. Examine recurring subscriptions. Evaluate major purchases. Ask yourself honestly, is this helping me build freedom or simply creating another financial obligation? The answers may surprise you. Fortunately, building assets doesn't require enormous wealth. You can begin with modest investments. Broad market index funds, dividend-paying companies, digital products, books, educational content, a small online business. Even improving your own skills can become an asset, because greater knowledge often creates greater earning potential. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is progress. One thoughtful decision today, followed by another tomorrow, gradually reshapes your entire financial future. Eventually, you stop measuring success by what sits in your driveway or what hangs in your closet. Instead, you measure success by something far more meaningful. How many assets continue producing value, whether you're working or not? Because real wealth isn't defined by how impressive your lifestyle appears. It's defined by how long your assets can support that lifestyle without requiring another paycheck. That's the moment money stops controlling your choices and starts expanding them. And that is the true power of understanding the difference between assets and liabilities. Chapter 3. Build assets you can actually afford. Start exactly where you are. One of the biggest lies people tell themselves is this: I'll start investing when I make more money. It sounds reasonable. It even feels responsible. But for millions of people, that day never comes. Because as income increases, expenses usually increase with it. A larger paycheck often brings a larger apartment, a newer car, more expensive vacations, more monthly payments. The opportunity to build wealth quietly slips away once again. The truth is, financial independence rarely begins with a dramatic breakthrough. It begins with one small decision, a decision to start before you feel completely ready. Many self-made investors didn't begin with enormous salaries. They began with consistency, with discipline, with the willingness to build something small and allow time to multiply it. That is why one of the greatest advantages you can develop isn't a larger income. It's a larger perspective. Instead of asking, how much money do I need before I can invest? Start asking, what can I begin building with what I already have? That question opens doors most people never notice. Your current income is not the finish line. It is simply the starting point. Think of every dollar you earn as a seed. Most people consume every seed they receive, then wonder why no financial tree ever grows. Wealth builders do something different. They plant a portion of every paycheck. They understand that even the smallest investment, given enough time, can become surprisingly powerful. The greatest obstacle isn't usually a lack of money. It's waiting for perfect conditions. Perfect conditions rarely exist. There will always be unexpected expenses, unexpected opportunities, unexpected fears. If you wait until life feels completely stable, you may never begin. History consistently rewards people who start early, even if they start small. Imagine investing a modest amount every single month. At first, the progress seems almost invisible. The numbers barely move. It feels slow, sometimes even disappointing. But compounding works quietly. It doesn't ask for attention. It simply asks for time. Month after month, year after year, small investments begin producing larger returns. Eventually, those returns begin creating returns of their own. What once appeared insignificant becomes impossible to ignore. That is the extraordinary power of consistency. Another important realization is that assets don't always require large amounts of money. Sometimes, they require creativity. If you possess valuable knowledge, you already own something worth investing. Perhaps you understand photography, graphic design, cooking, languages, fitness, finance, technology, or communication. Each of those skills has the potential to become an asset: a digital guide, an online course, a consulting service, educational videos, templates, membership communities. The internet has dramatically lowered the cost of building valuable products. Today's economy rewards people who create solutions, not just those who own factories or large companies. Even content itself has become an asset: a helpful article, a useful video, a well-designed digital product, a podcast episode. These pieces of work continue reaching new people long after they're created. 1 hour invested today can continue creating opportunities for years. This is why digital assets have become one of the greatest wealth-building tools of the modern era. Of course, not everyone wants to build online businesses. That's perfectly fine. Assets come in many different forms: index funds, dividend-paying stocks, fractional real estate investments, rental property, small businesses, intellectual property. The principle remains exactly the same. Own things that continue producing value, not things that continuously demand more money from you. Many people also underestimate the value of a side income. At first, a side project may earn only a small amount, but that isn't its greatest purpose. Its purpose is to create a new source of cash flow. Once that cash flow exists, you can reinvest it into additional assets. One income stream becomes two, two become four. Gradually, your financial life becomes more resilient. Instead of relying entirely on one paycheck, you've built multiple sources of support. That's how ordinary incomes eventually create extraordinary wealth. There is another habit that quietly accelerates this process: living slightly below your means. This doesn't require extreme sacrifice. It simply means resisting the temptation to increase your lifestyle every time your income grows. Every raise presents a choice: increase spending or increase ownership. The second option may not look exciting today, but years later, it often becomes the reason one person enjoys financial freedom, while another remains trapped despite earning more. Discipline is rarely exciting in the moment. Its rewards appear later. And that's exactly why so few people practice it consistently. Remember, wealth is built through repeated actions, not occasional inspiration. If all you can invest today is a small amount, start there. If all you can build today is one simple product, begin with that. If all you can save this month is a little more than last month, celebrate the progress. Because momentum matters more than perfection. Every asset begins as something small. Every successful business once had its first customer. Every investment portfolio once held its first contribution. Every financially independent person once stood exactly where you are now. At the beginning, what separated them wasn't extraordinary talent. It wasn't perfect timing, and it certainly wasn't unlimited money. It was the decision to act before they felt completely ready. Because wealth doesn't wait for perfect circumstances. It rewards consistent action, one investment, one asset, one disciplined decision at a time. And before you realize it, those small choices begin working together, creating a future that no longer depends entirely on today's paycheck. Chapter 4. Turn your skills into assets. Monetize what you already know. Every person carries something valuable inside them. Not money, not property, not connections, but knowledge, experience, skills. The challenge is that most people never recognize those things as assets. They assume wealth belongs only to those with large investments, powerful networks, or extraordinary opportunities. Yet some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs began with nothing more than a skill they decided to share. A teacher, a writer, a designer, a programmer, a photographer, a mechanic, a public speaker, a salesperson. At first, their knowledge existed only inside their minds. But once they transformed that knowledge into something people could use, it became an asset. And unlike physical labor, that asset could continue producing income long after the original work was finished. This is one of the greatest opportunities of the modern economy. Today, your expertise can travel farther than you ever could. A lesson recorded once can teach thousands. A digital template can be downloaded endlessly. A book can continue educating readers decades after it's written. An online course can reach students on every continent. The internet has removed many of the traditional barriers that once limited opportunity. Now, the question is no longer, do I have enough money to build something? The better question is, what valuable knowledge do I already possess that could solve someone else's problem? Because every profitable business begins with one simple principle: solve a problem. People rarely pay for information alone. They pay for clarity, for confidence, for transformation. They pay because your experience helps them reach a result faster than they could on their own. Think about your own life. What challenges have you already overcome? What skills have you spent years developing? What mistakes have taught you valuable lessons? Those experiences may seem ordinary to you because you've lived with them for so long, but to someone else, they may be exactly the guidance they're searching for. This is why many successful creators say your ordinary knowledge is someone else's breakthrough. Once you recognize that, your perspective changes completely. Instead of seeing yourself only as an employee, you begin seeing yourself as a creator of value. And value, when packaged correctly, becomes an asset. Packaging your knowledge doesn't have to be complicated. If you enjoy teaching, create an online course. If you enjoy writing, publish an ebook. If you're skilled at solving business problems, offer consulting. If you communicate well, start a YouTube channel or a podcast. Each format allows your knowledge to continue working, even while you're doing something else. That's the remarkable difference between selling time and selling systems. Employees are usually paid once for every hour they work. Asset builders are paid repeatedly for value they've already created. This doesn't mean success happens overnight. Building trust always takes time. People buy from those they believe, not simply those they notice. That's why your personal reputation becomes one of your most valuable assets. Every helpful article, every educational video, every honest conversation, every satisfied client, every promise you keep. These small actions slowly build credibility, and credibility compounds just like money. Eventually, people stop searching for products. They begin searching for you. Your name becomes associated with quality, with consistency, with results. That reputation quietly opens doors that advertising alone never could. Clients recommend you. Partners approach you. New opportunities appear naturally. Trust becomes an asset that continues creating value every day. One of the fastest ways to strengthen that trust is by sharing your own journey. People don't connect with perfection. They connect with authenticity. They want to know what you've learned, what mistakes you've made, what lessons changed your life. Stories build relationships, and relationships build businesses. Of course, creating knowledge-based assets requires continuous learning. The world changes rapidly. Technology evolves. Markets shift. New tools emerge. Those who continue growing are usually those who never stop learning. Every new skill expands your ability to create more value, and greater value almost always leads to greater income. Education isn't merely an expense. It's one of the highest return investments you'll ever make, because every improvement in your abilities affects every future opportunity. Another important principle is diversification. Don't depend on a single product, a single client, or a single source of income. Once you've built one successful asset, use it to create another. A course can become a book can become a podcast can grow into a membership community, a YouTube audience can support multiple businesses. Each asset strengthens the others. Together, they form an ecosystem instead of a single income stream. That's how lasting wealth is built, piece by piece, system by system. The greatest misconception about wealth is believing that opportunity belongs only to a fortunate few. It doesn't. Opportunity increasingly belongs to those willing to create, those willing to share what they know, those willing to solve meaningful problems consistently. Because in today's economy, your greatest asset may not be your savings account. It may be your ability to transform what you already know into something that continues creating value long after you've finished creating it. When that happens, your knowledge stops being something you simply possess. It becomes something that quietly works for you every single day. And that's one of the most powerful assets anyone can ever build. Chapter 5. Invest in real assets, property, gold, and dividend stocks. Every generation experiences new financial trends, a hot stock, a revolutionary technology, a once-in-a-lifetime investment opportunity. Some become genuine innovations, others disappear as quickly as they arrived. But throughout history, certain assets have continued creating wealth regardless of changing headlines. Real estate, gold, and ownership in strong businesses. These aren't exciting because they're new. They're powerful because they've consistently survived every economic cycle. While people chase the next financial miracle, wealthy investors often continue building the same foundation generation after generation. Why? Because they understand an important truth. Real wealth isn't built by predicting tomorrow's trend. It's built by owning assets that continue creating value for decades. Let's begin with real estate. A house is more than walls and a roof. The right property can become an income-producing machine. Each month, rent arrives. Each year, the property may appreciate. Over time, tenants gradually help pay down the mortgage while your ownership increases. That's the quiet beauty of real estate. It combines cash flow, long-term appreciation, and leverage. Of course, not everyone can purchase multiple properties immediately. Fortunately, today's financial world offers more accessible options. Real estate investment trusts, fractional ownership platforms, and real estate funds allow people to participate with far less capital than previous generations required. The principle remains unchanged. Own assets that generate income. Allow time to multiply their value. Property also offers another important advantage. It often keeps pace with inflation. As the cost of living rises, property values and rental income frequently rise as well. While inflation slowly reduces the purchasing power of cash, productive real estate often moves in the opposite direction. Instead of becoming weaker, it frequently becomes stronger. That's one reason many long-term investors continue allocating part of their portfolios to property. Next comes gold. Unlike a business, gold doesn't produce earnings. It doesn't pay dividends. It doesn't manufacture products. So why has humanity valued it for thousands of years? Because gold serves a different purpose: protection. When uncertainty rises, currencies fluctuate, or financial markets experience turmoil, gold has historically been viewed as a store of value. It acts less like an engine of growth and more like financial insurance. Think of it this way. You don't buy insurance hoping to use it every day. You own it because unexpected events eventually happen. Gold often plays a similar role inside a balanced portfolio. It helps preserve purchasing power during periods of economic instability. That doesn't mean every dollar should be invested in gold. Balance always matters. Its purpose isn't rapid growth. Its purpose is resilience. Now consider dividend-paying companies. When you purchase shares in businesses with long histories of profitability, you're becoming a partial owner. Those companies continue serving customers, selling products, earning profits, and in many cases, sharing a portion of those profits with shareholders. That's what dividends represent. Your money begins working inside businesses that employ thousands of people, serve millions of customers, and continue operating whether you're awake or asleep. Imagine receiving regular payments simply because you own part of a productive company. Then imagine reinvesting those payments. Each dividend purchases additional shares. Those new shares generate even more dividends. The cycle quietly repeats. That's compounding in action. It rarely feels dramatic, yet over decades, it becomes incredibly powerful. Many new investors make the mistake of waiting for the perfect moment to invest. They watch financial news, study headlines, attempt to predict every market movement. Often, they spend years waiting. Meanwhile, consistent investors quietly continue buying quality assets month after month. History repeatedly shows that disciplined investing usually outperforms emotional timing. Markets naturally rise, markets naturally fall, but productive businesses continue adapting, innovating, and creating value. Long-term investors understand this. They focus less on today's headlines and more on tomorrow's ownership. One valuable habit is diversification. Rather than placing every dollar into one investment, spread your ownership across different types of productive assets: real estate, dividend-paying businesses, gold, perhaps broad market index funds. Each serves a different purpose. One generates income, another protects purchasing power, another delivers long-term growth. Together, they create balance. When one area experiences temporary weakness, another often provides stability. This reduces unnecessary risk while allowing your wealth to continue growing steadily. The goal has never been to become rich overnight. The goal is to build a financial structure capable of supporting you for decades. Eventually, your thinking begins to change. Instead of asking, "What can I buy?" you begin asking, "What can I own that keeps paying me?" That's one of the defining characteristics of financially successful people. They prioritize ownership over consumption. They buy assets before upgrading lifestyles. They understand that today's investment purchases tomorrow's freedom. Remember, real wealth rarely announces itself with excitement. It grows quietly. One property, one dividend, 1 ounce of gold, one investment at a time. While others chase quick profits, Patient investors continue strengthening their foundation. Years later, those small, consistent decisions often produce remarkable results. Because real assets don't simply preserve wealth. When managed wisely, they steadily create it. And that's why generations of successful investors continue returning to the same timeless principle. Own things that continue creating value long after you've paid for them. Chapter 6. Build Digital Assets, the New Era of Wealth Creation. Not long ago, building wealth usually required enormous resources. You needed a storefront, a factory, employees, large amounts of capital, and years before anyone even noticed your business. Today, that reality has changed. One person, with a laptop, an internet connection, and a valuable idea, can build an asset that reaches millions of people across the world. Never before has it been easier to create something once and allow it to continue producing value for years. The internet has become one of the greatest wealth-building tools ever created. Not because it magically creates money, but because it removes the barriers that once prevented ordinary people from building scalable assets. In the digital economy, attention has become a form of real estate. Every article you publish, every video you upload, every course you create, every email you send, and every digital product you build can become an asset that continues working long after you've finished creating it. Unlike traditional employment, digital assets don't depend entirely on your physical presence. A video recorded today may still educate someone 5 years from now. An ebook may continue selling while you're asleep. A software tool can serve thousands of users simultaneously. A website can generate leads every hour of every day. This is what makes digital assets so powerful. They allow one effort to produce thousands of future results. But before building anything, clarity comes first. Too many people begin by asking, how can I make money online? Successful creators ask a different question. What problem can I solve for other people? That simple shift changes everything, because people don't pay for random content. They pay for solutions, for convenience, for education, for entertainment, for transformation. The internet rewards usefulness. The more value you consistently provide, the more trust you earn, and trust eventually becomes income. Once you understand the problem you're solving, the next step is simple. Create, not perfectly. Simply begin. Your first video won't be your best. Your first ebook won't be flawless. Your first website may feel ordinary. That's perfectly normal. Every successful creator you admire once published something they would improve today. Progress has always been more valuable than perfection. The people who eventually succeed are rarely the most talented. They're usually the ones who keep showing up long after others quit. Consistency creates momentum. Momentum creates opportunity. Opportunity creates wealth. Every piece of content becomes another brick in your digital foundation. One article becomes 50. One video becomes hundreds. One product becomes an entire collection. Over time, those individual pieces begin supporting one another, and what once looked like scattered efforts becomes a complete business ecosystem. Automation is what transforms that ecosystem into a true asset. Technology now handles many of the repetitive tasks that once required constant attention. Sales pages operate around the clock. Email sequences educate new customers automatically. Digital products are delivered instantly. Payment systems process transactions without manual effort. Customer support can answer common questions even while you're sleeping. Instead of repeating the same work endlessly, you build systems that repeat it for you. This doesn't eliminate work, it multiplies its impact. Another extraordinary advantage of digital assets is scalability. In traditional businesses, serving more customers often requires hiring more employees, expanding buildings, increasing expenses. Digital products work differently. A course that teaches one student can often teach 10,000. A software application can serve millions with only incremental costs. One useful video can reach viewers across every continent. Technology removes many of the limitations that once restricted growth. That is why modern entrepreneurs often focus on building systems before chasing scale. Once a system functions efficiently, growth becomes much easier. Diversification also becomes essential. Never allow your financial future to depend entirely on one platform. Algorithms change, technology evolves, businesses rise and fall. Instead, build multiple assets that support each other. Your YouTube channel introduces new audiences. Your website becomes your permanent home. Your email list creates direct communication. Your digital products generate revenue. Your community builds trust. Together, they create stability. If one platform changes, your entire business doesn't disappear. Ownership matters, perhaps more than ever before. Social media platforms are valuable, but you don't own them. Your website, your products, your intellectual property, your customer relationships, those belong to you. And ownership is what creates lasting wealth. Another important lesson is continuous learning. Digital markets evolve incredibly fast. New technologies emerge. Artificial intelligence changes workflows. Consumer behavior shifts. Those who continue learning remain competitive. Those who stop adapting slowly become invisible. Knowledge compounds, just as investments do. Every new skill expands your ability to create even more valuable assets. Perhaps the greatest misconception about digital wealth is believing it's reserved for programmers, technology experts, or famous influencers. It isn't. Every successful creator once started with 0 followers, 0 customers, 0 reputation. The difference wasn't special talent, it was persistence. They published, learned, improved, repeated, again and again. Eventually, small improvements became extraordinary results. As your digital assets grow, your relationship with money begins changing. You stop measuring success by hours worked. Instead, you measure systems created, value delivered, problems solved, communities built, because those are the foundations that generate sustainable income. The internet can certainly become a distraction, but for those willing to build instead of simply consume, it can also become one of the greatest opportunities ever created. Every piece of content, every valuable idea, every digital product, every lesson you share has the potential to become another asset quietly working on your behalf. And that's what the digital economy truly offers, not quick riches, but unlimited opportunities to build systems that continue creating value long after today's work is complete. Because the future doesn't belong to those who consume the most information. It belongs to those who transform that information into assets that continue serving people for years to come. Chapter 7. Protect, expand, and pass on your wealth. Building wealth is an incredible achievement, but creating wealth is only half the journey. The other half is making sure it lasts. History is filled with people who earned fortunes only to lose them a few years later, not because they lacked intelligence, not because they stopped working hard, but because they never learned how to protect what they had already built. Creating money requires skill. Keeping money requires wisdom. And passing wealth to future generations requires intention. The wealthiest families in the world understand this difference. They don't simply focus on earning more. They focus on preserving what already exists so it can continue serving their children, their grandchildren, and even generations they've never met. That long-term perspective changes every financial decision. Instead of asking, "How much can I make this year?" they ask, "How can I build something that still creates value 50 years from now?" That is the mindset of lasting wealth. Protection begins with preparation. Life is unpredictable. Economic downturns happen. Markets fluctuate. Businesses face challenges. Unexpected emergencies arrive without warning. People who prepare for these realities are rarely destroyed by them. They build financial cushions before they need them. Emergency savings, appropriate insurance, diversified investments, multiple income streams. These may not feel exciting, but stability rarely comes from excitement. It comes from preparation. Think of wealth as a tree. Growing the tree takes years of patience. Protecting it means shielding it from storms. Without protection, even the strongest tree can be damaged by a single season of neglect. The same principle applies to your finances. Risk can never be eliminated completely, but it can be managed intelligently. This is why diversification remains one of the most valuable financial principles. Never allow your future to depend on a single investment, a single company, a single customer, or a single paycheck. The more independent sources of income you develop, the stronger your financial foundation becomes. If one stream slows, the others continue flowing. That resilience creates peace of mind. Another important habit is avoiding unnecessary debt. Not all debt is harmful. Productive debt used wisely to acquire income-producing assets can accelerate growth. But consumer debt used to finance temporary lifestyles often creates long-term limitations. Every unnecessary payment reduces your future flexibility. Every high-interest balance quietly steals money that could have been invested instead. Financial freedom grows faster when your money works for you, instead of working for your lenders. Protection also means protecting yourself from emotional decisions, greed, fear, impatience. These emotions have destroyed more fortunes than recessions ever have. When markets rise rapidly, people become overconfident. When markets decline, many panic and sell. Disciplined investors understand that emotions are temporary. Long-term strategies are what create lasting results. They remain focused on their plan instead of reacting to every headline. Another often overlooked asset is your health. Without physical energy, mental clarity, and emotional resilience, even extraordinary wealth loses much of its value. The ability to enjoy your freedom depends on your ability to live well. Investing in your health, your relationships, and your peace of mind may ultimately provide returns no financial statement can fully measure. Then comes one of the most meaningful questions anyone can ask. What happens to everything you've built after you're gone? Many people spend decades accumulating wealth, but very little time preparing for its transfer. Clear financial planning matters. Organized records, updated legal documents, honest conversations with family. Teaching future generations how wealth was created, not merely giving it to them. Because money without wisdom rarely survives. Children who understand discipline, responsibility, and stewardship are far more likely to preserve wealth than those who inherit money without understanding its purpose. The greatest inheritance isn't simply financial, it's educational. It's teaching future generations how to think, how to save, how to invest, and how to continue building value for others. That's how wealth becomes a legacy instead of a temporary possession. Ultimately, money is only a tool. It creates choices, it creates opportunities, it creates freedom. But its highest purpose isn't found in luxury alone. Its greatest purpose is the ability to improve lives, your own, your family's, and perhaps even the lives of people you'll never personally meet. As you continue building assets, remember that every investment represents more than financial growth. It represents time, freedom, security, possibility. Each wise decision today quietly shapes tomorrow's opportunities. Years from now, you may not remember every investment you made, but you'll remember the life those investments allowed you to create. The freedom to choose your work, the freedom to spend time with those you love, the freedom to live according to your values instead of your financial pressures. That is the true destination of this journey, not endless accumulation, but lasting freedom. Because in the end, the greatest asset you'll ever build is a life where your money serves your purpose, instead of your purpose serving money. The invisible machine. How compounding quietly builds extraordinary wealth. Imagine planting a single tree. On the first day, nothing remarkable happens. After a week, it still appears almost unchanged. Even after several months, the progress seems disappointingly slow. Many people would assume nothing meaningful is happening beneath the surface. But underground, the roots are spreading, quietly, patiently, preparing for years of future growth. Wealth works in exactly the same way. The greatest financial results rarely happen overnight. They happen because thousands of small decisions accumulate, until one day, their combined effect becomes impossible to ignore. This invisible force has a name: compounding. Albert Einstein is often credited with calling compound interest one of the most powerful forces in the world. Whether or not he actually said those exact words, the principle remains undeniably true. Compounding is the process of allowing today's gains to become tomorrow's investment, then allowing tomorrow's gains to generate even more growth. Again and again and again. It is wealth building itself. Think about two investors. The first waits until everything feels perfect, a better salary, a better economy, a better opportunity. 5 years pass before they finally begin. The second investor starts immediately. They don't invest huge amounts, only small, consistent contributions every month. At first, their progress seems almost invisible. The account grows slowly. Sometimes the market falls, sometimes it rises. Nothing feels extraordinary, but time is quietly working in their favor. After 10 years, the difference begins to appear. After 20 years, the gap becomes substantial. After 30 years, the results often seem unbelievable to someone looking only at the final numbers. The remarkable part is this. The biggest advantage wasn't earning more money. It wasn't finding secret investments. It wasn't predicting the stock market. It was simply starting earlier and refusing to stop. Compounding rewards patience more generously than brilliance. Many people underestimate this because our minds naturally expect immediate results. We enjoy quick rewards, instant gratification, visible progress. Compounding offers none of those things at the beginning. Instead, it asks for trust. It asks for consistency. It asks you to continue investing, even when the results seem too small to matter. Ironically, those small investments are often the ones that eventually change an entire financial future. The same principle extends far beyond investing. Knowledge compounds. Every book you read, every skill you learn, every conversation you have adds another layer to your understanding. One lesson rarely changes your life, but hundreds of lessons collected over many years can completely transform the way you think. Relationships compound too. Trust is rarely built through one conversation. It grows through hundreds of honest interactions. Businesses compound. A satisfied customer recommends another. That customer tells two more. Slowly, the reputation you've spent years building begins attracting opportunities without constant effort. Even your habits compound. Saving a little more each month, learning a little every day, improving your health consistently. Each individual action appears insignificant, yet together they create extraordinary outcomes. This is why successful people often appear lucky. What others call luck is frequently the visible result of invisible consistency. Years of disciplined choices eventually become impossible to ignore. There is another lesson hidden inside compounding. Interruptions are expensive. Every time you stop investing, stop learning, or stop building, you interrupt momentum that took years to create. Momentum is one of the greatest assets you will ever own. Protect it carefully. Continue showing up, even when progress feels slow. Especially when progress feels slow. Because those are often the moments when compounding is doing its most important work beneath the surface. One day, you'll look back and realize something remarkable. The wealth you built wasn't created by one extraordinary decision. It was created by thousands of ordinary decisions made consistently over many years. That is the quiet miracle of compounding. It doesn't reward those searching for shortcuts. It rewards those willing to stay the course. And in the end, time becomes your greatest business partner, working every single day, even while you sleep. Chapter 9. The Wealth Habits of the Financially Free. Daily decisions that change everything. If you ask most people how wealth is created, they would probably mention a great investment, a brilliant business idea, or a lucky opportunity. But if you spent time observing people who have remained financially successful for decades, you would notice something very different. Their wealth wasn't built by one extraordinary event. It was built by ordinary habits, repeated with extraordinary consistency. Every day, they make hundreds of small financial decisions. Most seem insignificant: buying coffee, saving instead of spending, reading instead of scrolling, investing instead of waiting. Individually, none of these choices appear life-changing. Together, they determine an entire financial future. This is why habits matter far more than motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Some mornings you wake up inspired. Other days, you don't. Habits continue working, even when motivation disappears. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't debate whether it's worth doing every morning. You simply do it. Imagine treating investing the same way. Imagine saving automatically, learning automatically, reviewing your finances automatically. After enough repetition, wealth building becomes part of your identity rather than another difficult task on your to-do list. Financially free people rarely rely on willpower alone. Instead, they design environments that make good decisions easier. Their investments happen automatically. Their savings are transferred before they have the chance to spend them. Their bills are organized. Their financial goals are written down. Why? Because systems are stronger than emotions. When everything depends on discipline, eventually discipline becomes exhausted. But well-designed systems continue operating, even on difficult days. Another powerful habit is intentional spending. Notice the word intentional. Financially successful people aren't afraid to spend money. They simply spend with purpose. They happily pay for things that improve their health, increase their productivity, strengthen their relationships, or help them build additional assets. But they hesitate before purchasing anything, driven only by impulse. Before every meaningful purchase, they pause and ask, will I still be grateful for this decision 5 years from now? That simple question filters out countless unnecessary expenses. It shifts attention away from temporary excitement toward lasting value. Another habit separates builders from consumers: continuous learning. The wealthiest people in nearly every industry remain students. Even after decades of success, they read books, study markets, listen to experts, attend seminars, ask thoughtful questions. Why? Because every new idea becomes another tool, another advantage, another opportunity waiting to be used. Knowledge compounds exactly like investments. One useful lesson may seem small. Hundreds of useful lessons, applied consistently, can completely reshape your financial life. There is also the habit of delayed gratification, perhaps one of the rarest qualities in today's world. Modern culture encourages immediate pleasure. Buy now, pay later, upgrade immediately, enjoy today. But wealth builders reverse that equation. They sacrifice a little today to enjoy much greater freedom tomorrow. Instead of asking, what can I afford today? They ask, what will this decision allow me to afford 10 years from now? That long-term thinking changes everything. Another overlooked habit is protecting your attention. Attention has become one of the world's most valuable resources. Every advertisement, every notification, every social media platform competes for it. Because where your attention goes, your actions usually follow. Financially successful people guard their attention carefully. They spend less time comparing themselves to others, less time chasing every trend, more time improving their own skills. Their greatest competition isn't another person. It's the version of themselves they were yesterday. Gratitude also plays an unexpected role in wealth. Contentment doesn't eliminate ambition. It simply prevents endless dissatisfaction. People who constantly compare themselves with others often feel permanently behind, no matter how much they earn. Those who appreciate their progress, while continuing to improve, usually make calmer, smarter, and more rational financial decisions. Then there's generosity. At first glance, it may seem unrelated to wealth, but many financially successful people understand that money creates its greatest value when it creates value for others. Helping family, supporting meaningful causes, investing in employees, mentoring younger entrepreneurs. Generosity changes your relationship with money. Instead of becoming something to fear losing, it becomes a tool capable of improving lives. Perhaps the most important habit of all is patience. Patience allows investments to grow, businesses to mature, skills to develop, relationships to strengthen. Without patience, People abandon opportunities just before they begin producing meaningful results. The financially free understand that success rarely arrives on the schedule we expect, but it almost always rewards those who continue showing up. Every day, every week, every year. Eventually, those daily habits become something much larger, a lifestyle, an identity, a way of thinking. People begin describing you as disciplined, successful, lucky. They rarely see the thousands of quiet decisions that created those outcomes. But you will, because you'll know that every investment, every book, every wise financial choice, every moment of patience was another brick placed into the foundation of your future. And one day, that foundation becomes so strong that your financial life no longer depends on extraordinary effort. It simply reflects the habits you've been practicing all along. Because wealth is rarely built through dramatic moments. It is built through ordinary days, lived with extraordinary intention. Chapter 10. Design a life where money serves you, not the other way around. For most of their lives, people chase money. They wake up early, work long hours, sacrifice weekends, delay dreams, convincing themselves that one day, after earning just a little more, life will finally begin. But somewhere along the journey, many forget an important question. What is all this money actually for? Money was never meant to become your master. It was meant to become your servant, a tool, nothing more, nothing less. Yet countless people unknowingly reverse the relationship. They organize their entire lives around earning income, instead of using income to build the life they truly want. Eventually, their schedule belongs to their employer. Their priorities belong to their obligations. Their time belongs to everyone, except themselves. This is not financial freedom. It is simply a different kind of dependency. True wealth begins the moment money starts creating options. The option to spend an afternoon with your family. The option to travel without asking permission. The option to say no to work that conflicts with your values. The option to pursue projects that inspire you instead of projects that merely pay the bills. That is the real purpose of financial independence. Not luxury, not status, choice. Every asset you build is quietly purchasing a little more of that freedom. Every investment buys back a small piece of your future time. Every passive income stream reduces your dependence on your next paycheck. This is why financially successful people often value time more than money. Money can usually be earned again. Time cannot. Once today disappears, it never returns. That's why many wealthy individuals willingly pay for convenience. They outsource repetitive tasks. They automate routine work. They invest in tools that save hours. Not because they're lazy, because they understand something priceless. Time is the only resource that cannot be replenished. Think about your average week. How many hours are spent doing things that move you closer to freedom? And how many are spent simply maintaining your current lifestyle? This isn't meant to create guilt. It's meant to create awareness. Awareness always comes before change. Perhaps the greatest financial upgrade you can make isn't earning another dollar. Perhaps it's redesigning how your time is invested. Every hour carries opportunity. An hour spent learning, creating, building, investing, teaching, improving your health, strengthening your relationships. These hours often produce returns far beyond the moment itself. Meanwhile, hours lost to endless distraction rarely produce anything except regret. This doesn't mean life should become constant productivity. Quite the opposite. Rest matters. Joy matters. Family matters. Experiences matter. Money exists to support those things, not replace them. The healthiest relationship with wealth is balance. Work with purpose. Save with discipline. Invest with patience. Then enjoy the freedom those decisions create. Many people postpone happiness. I'll relax after the promotion. I'll spend time with my children after I earn more. I'll travel after retirement. The danger is obvious. Life rarely unfolds exactly as planned. Tomorrow is never guaranteed. Financial wisdom means preparing for the future without forgetting to live in the present. Your wealth should improve today's life while protecting tomorrow's opportunities, not sacrifice one entirely for the other. Another important realization is this: enough is a moving target. Without clear values, there will always be another house, another car, another promotion, another comparison. The finish line keeps moving. People spend decades chasing more, without ever defining what enough actually means. Financially free people often answer that question early. They decide what kind of life truly matters. Then they build assets to support that vision, not someone else's vision, their own. That clarity changes spending. It changes investing. It changes priorities. Instead of buying things to impress strangers, they invest in experiences that enrich their lives. Instead of competing endlessly, they focus on creating peace. Another overlooked benefit of financial freedom is emotional freedom. The freedom to make decisions without constant fear. The freedom to leave unhealthy environments. The freedom to take thoughtful risks. The freedom to recover from unexpected setbacks without panic. Money cannot eliminate every problem, but it can remove many unnecessary sources of stress, and that allows you to focus your energy where it matters most. As your assets continue growing, remember what they truly represent. Not numbers on a screen, not symbols of success, but opportunities. Each investment, each business, each property, each digital asset, each dividend is another small step toward a life where your calendar belongs increasingly to you. One day, you may discover something remarkable. The greatest reward wasn't becoming wealthy, it was becoming free enough to spend your days according to your own values. To wake each morning, not asking, "What must I do today?" but instead asking, "What matters most today?" That is the quiet destination every wise investor is truly pursuing. Not endless accumulation, but intentional living. Because in the end, the greatest financial achievement is not having more money than everyone else. It is building a life where money quietly supports your purpose, while your time is spent on the people, the work, and the moments that matter most. Chapter 11. Build a legacy. Make your wealth outlive you. Imagine reaching the end of your career. You've built investments, you've accumulated assets, you've achieved financial independence. Now ask yourself one final question. What happens next? For many people, wealth ends with the person who created it. Years of hard work, decades of sacrifice, slowly disappear within a generation. Not because the money wasn't enough, but because the knowledge behind it was never passed on. Creating wealth is difficult. Preserving wealth is even harder. Transferring the wisdom that created it is the greatest challenge of all. History offers countless examples. Families who built extraordinary fortunes only to watch them disappear. Businesses that flourished under one generation, then collapsed under the next. The problem wasn't always poor investments. Often, it was the absence of financial education. Money without wisdom rarely survives. This is why truly wealthy families focus on more than inheritance. They focus on preparation. They teach children how money works, how businesses operate, how investments grow, how debt can help or destroy, how patience creates opportunities that impulsiveness never will, because an inheritance is temporary. Education lasts a lifetime. Think about it. If someone gave you millions of dollars, but never taught you how to manage it, how long would that wealth survive? Perhaps a few years, maybe a decade. Eventually, poor decisions would quietly erase what took someone else a lifetime to build. Now imagine something different. Imagine receiving financial knowledge long before receiving financial assets. You would understand the responsibility that comes with ownership. You would recognize the difference between consumption and investment. You would know that every dollar carries a purpose. That understanding is often worth far more than the money itself. Legacy begins long before you're gone. It begins with the conversations you have today, the example you set, the habits your family watches every day. Children learn more from what they observe than from what they're told. If they see discipline, they learn discipline. If they see generosity, they learn generosity. If they see thoughtful investing, they begin understanding delayed gratification. Your daily behavior quietly becomes their financial education. Another important part of legacy is documentation. Many families experience unnecessary confusion because financial information exists only inside one person's mind. Investment accounts, insurance policies, business ownership, legal documents, passwords, property records. No one knows where everything is. No one understands how the system works. Years of careful planning become difficult to manage simply because nothing was organized. True stewardship means making life easier, not only for yourself, but for the people who may one day manage what you've built. Organization is an act of care, so is communication. Many families avoid discussing money. They believe silence protects relationships. Often, the opposite happens. Misunderstandings grow. Expectations become unclear. Conflict replaces clarity. Healthy financial conversations create understanding, not entitlement. The goal isn't raising children who expect wealth. It's raising adults capable of creating wealth on their own. There is another powerful way to build a legacy. Invest in people. Perhaps you've experienced someone who believed in you before you believed in yourself. A mentor, a teacher, a parent, a friend. One conversation may have changed your entire direction. Financial wealth creates the opportunity to become that person for someone else. Supporting education, helping entrepreneurs, funding scholarships, creating jobs, mentoring young professionals. These investments rarely appear on a balance sheet, yet they often produce the greatest returns of all, because every life you help improve continues influencing countless others. That is compounding in its most meaningful form. Legacy is not measured only by assets transferred. It is measured by lives transformed. Eventually, every successful investor reaches a realization. No amount of money can purchase more time. No portfolio can stop the passing of years. What remains is the impact you've created, the opportunities you've provided, the values you've lived, the example you've left behind. Money eventually changes hands. Character remains. That is why the greatest legacy is never a bank account. It is a mindset, a way of thinking, a philosophy of responsibility, discipline, gratitude, and service. If future generations inherit that mindset, they will have the ability to create wealth again, even if everything else disappears. Because true wealth has never existed only in assets. It exists inside the person capable of building them. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. Your investments may one day be spent. Your businesses may eventually change ownership. Your properties may belong to someone else, but the wisdom you pass forward can continue creating prosperity for generations you will never meet. That is the quiet power of a true financial legacy. Not simply leaving people more money, but leaving them better prepared to build a meaningful life of their own. Chapter 12. The Final Blueprint, the Wealth Principles You'll Carry for Life. Every journey eventually reaches a point where learning must become action. Knowledge alone has never created wealth. Books don't build businesses. Podcasts don't generate passive income. Ideas don't produce financial freedom. Action does. The purpose of everything you've heard in this audiobook has never been to fill your mind with more information. It has been to change the way you make decisions, because every financial future is built one decision at a time, not once, every day. As you leave this audiobook, you don't need to remember every sentence. You don't need to memorize every strategy. You simply need to carry a handful of timeless principles with you. Principles that continue guiding your choices long after today's listening session ends. The first principle is simple. Always buy assets before buying luxuries. Luxury can wait. Assets should come first. Every asset you own increases your future income. Every unnecessary luxury delays it. This doesn't mean you should never enjoy your money. It means allowing your investments to finance your lifestyle instead of allowing your lifestyle to consume your investments. The second principle, make your money work harder than you do. There will always be limits to the number of hours you can work. There are no limits to the number of hours your assets can work. Every dollar has a choice. Remain idle, disappear through consumption, or become another worker employed on your behalf. Over time, those workers begin hiring even more workers. That's how wealth quietly expands. The third principle: never stop learning. Markets change, technology evolves, entire industries rise and disappear. The people who continue growing financially are rarely those who know everything. They're the ones who never stop asking questions. Curiosity is one of the highest return investments you'll ever make. Every book, every conversation, every new skill adds another tool to your financial toolbox. The fourth principle: protect what you've built. Growing wealth requires courage. Keeping wealth requires discipline. Diversify. Avoid reckless decisions. Maintain emergency reserves. Think long term. Never allow one emotional moment to destroy years of patient progress. Financial success is not measured by how quickly you recover from mistakes. It's measured by how wisely you avoid unnecessary ones. The fifth principle: let time become your greatest ally. Most people constantly search for better investments, faster returns, higher profits. The truly successful often search for something else: more years. Because time multiplies everything. It multiplies investments, relationships, skills, businesses, reputation. Patience allows ordinary decisions to produce extraordinary outcomes. There is one final principle, perhaps the most important of all. Remember why you're building wealth in the first place. Not to impress strangers, not to win comparisons, not to chase an endless number inside a bank account. You're building wealth to create choices, to protect your family, to sleep peacefully, to help others, to wake up each morning knowing your future no longer depends entirely on today's paycheck. That purpose gives meaning to every investment you make. When purpose is clear, discipline becomes easier, sacrifice becomes meaningful, patience becomes possible. Many people spend their entire lives chasing money without ever defining the life that money is supposed to create. Don't make that mistake. Design the life first, then allow your assets to support it. Imagine yourself 20 years from now, looking back on today. Perhaps this was the moment everything quietly changed. Not because you discovered a secret investment, not because you suddenly became wealthy overnight, but because today you began thinking differently. You stopped seeing money as something to spend and started seeing it as something capable of building freedom. That shift in perspective is where every lasting fortune begins. Years from now, your portfolio may look very different. Your income may be larger. Your businesses may have expanded. Your investments may have multiplied. But the foundation beneath all of it will still be the same principles. Earn wisely, spend intentionally, invest consistently, protect patiently, learn continuously, give generously, repeat again and again. Because wealth is never the result of one brilliant decision. It is the result of thousands of wise decisions made quietly, consistently, over the course of a lifetime. If you commit yourself to those principles, financial freedom will no longer feel like a distant dream. It will become the natural consequence of the life you choose to build. And perhaps one day, someone will ask you how you became financially independent. You may smile, because you'll know the answer was never complicated. You simply decided to let your assets work so your life could finally become your own. Conclusion: your next decision starts today. If you've listened this far, you already understand something that many people never fully realize. Financial freedom is not reserved for the lucky. It isn't reserved for people born into wealthy families, and it certainly isn't reserved only for business owners or investment professionals. It belongs to anyone willing to think differently, act consistently, and allow time to work in their favor. Everything you've learned throughout this audiobook can be summarized in one simple idea: own more than you consume, build more than you spend, create more than you collect. Because every asset you build becomes another quiet partner, working toward the future you want. There will always be reasons to wait for a better economy, a higher salary, more confidence, more experience, the perfect opportunity. But the truth is, the perfect time rarely arrives. The people who eventually achieve financial independence aren't the ones who waited until everything was certain. They're the ones who started while things were still uncertain. They invested before they felt wealthy. They learned before they felt qualified. They built before they felt ready. And little by little, their confidence grew alongside their assets. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson of all. Confidence doesn't come before action. It grows because of action. So don't worry about building an empire overnight. Focus on building one asset, then another, then another. A single investment, a useful skill, a dividend-paying stock, a digital product, a rental property, a business, a reputation people trust. Each one becomes another brick placed carefully into the foundation of your future. Years from now, those bricks will become something remarkable, not because any one of them was extraordinary, but because you never stopped building. As your assets grow, remember to remain humble. Continue learning, continue asking questions, continue adapting. The financial world will change, technology will evolve, new opportunities will appear, old strategies will disappear. But timeless principles never become obsolete. Live below your means, invest consistently, avoid unnecessary debt, think long-term, protect your downside, value integrity above profit. And always remember, wealth without purpose eventually feels empty. Use your success to create opportunities for others. Support your family. Strengthen your community. Help people who are still standing where you once stood. Because the greatest measure of prosperity is not how much you keep, but how much positive impact your wealth continues creating. One day, your investments may provide enough income that work becomes optional. When that day comes, don't think of it as the end of your journey. Think of it as the beginning of a new one. A life where your time belongs to you, where your calendar reflects your priorities, where your choices are guided by purpose instead of financial necessity. That is what every asset has been quietly working toward, not simply increasing your income, but increasing your freedom. Thank you for allowing us to share this journey with you. We hope these ideas stay with you long after this audiobook ends. More importantly, we hope you put them into practice, because knowledge changes nothing until it becomes action. Start today. Start small. Stay consistent. Trust the process, and allow every wise decision you make to become another investment in the life you truly want. Your future wealth will not be created by one extraordinary moment. It will be created by the ordinary choices you make, starting today. And perhaps, years from now, you'll look back on this very moment and realize that this wasn't simply the day you finished an audiobook. It was the day you began building a future where your assets worked tirelessly so you could finally live with freedom, security, and lasting peace of mind.